Okay, welcome everybody, and thanks for lending me your listening ear, everybody online. And big shout out to the team from Project Green Ribbon for having me over and telling my story today. I get to speak about myself, yay, I love doing that. But also I get to share a bit about my story and hopefully create some recognition with a lot of people that might feel the same way and might be struggling with similar stories, but never had the courage to actually come out and talk about these things. I've been in Asia for about 12 years now, and one thing that I found is that over here, even more so than in other countries, people are very embarrassed about very embarrassed about mental issues, about admitting that for themselves, admitting that about the children. And it creates an atmosphere where people don't really feel that they can go anywhere. What Project Green Ribbon is doing is really bringing this out into the open and bringing a climate where people can actually discuss this amongst each other, and if there is a need for as well going and finding professional help. I did that for myself probably way too late. I ran around with my own issues for a long time before I gathered the courage and even understanding that I needed to go for some professional help. So as I mentioned, I'm a PTSD survivor. That stands for post-traumatic stress disorder, I believe, this syndrome, something like that. And if it's complex PTSD, it means that basically it's been building up for many years. From my side, it was a lot of mental and physical childhood abuse. My parents, they went through the 70s crisis in a way that put quite a bit of a pinch on them financially. They struggled to make ends meet, and especially my mother, she was the kind of person who I would say didn't deal well with that pressure. She came out of a farmer's community, was hoping to find a marriage with an engineer and go into a more comfortable life, ending up making ends meet again and struggling, having to move to, again, a farmer's community, and she just didn't want to be there. My brother was quite a happy-go-lucky, quiet kid, good for him. I wasn't so quiet. I was a very curious, very energetic child. I would be the kid that would look over to a table with glasses, and I would want to try and see what happens if I pull over those glasses, right? Science experiment, right? So I was a natural lightning rod for my mother's anger. The good punishments were things like taking a wooden slipper to your head for a couple of minutes and shouting, I hate you, I wish you were never born. The less good things were situations where, for instance, she would be pretending to send me away, pick up the phone and talk to people and say, yeah, come and pick him up because I don't ever want to see him anymore. And that would then naturally send me into a sobbing mess at her feet. Please, mama, don't send me away. For the longest time, I actually thought that was quite normal. Everybody went through that, right? And it took me a long realization to understand that that actually isn't normal. And that has done a lot of things to me that, I couldn't explain for the longest time. So very simple things. I was not able to make up any friends. I wasn't able to just walk over to somebody and say, hey, how are you doing? In a school, you want to play? You want to do something together? I didn't have any friends in those days because I just was too self-conscious to even walk over to them. So what happened is that I would be looking at people and just mimicking them. I would be looking at how are they behaving. I would be splitting people up in groups, and I was quite fortunate that I'm a fairly intelligent person, so I was able to dissect people quite easily. Okay, these are the yuppies, these are the hard rockers, these are the athletes, and they behave in a certain way, so if you want to be accepted in a group, you'll have to adjust. So I tried out all these different groups, and I found, actually, you know what? This doesn't gel with me. This is not really me. So I ended up, spending a lot of time at my favorite pub where, quite frankly, a lot of the people, I won't go into detail, but they were pretty hardcore criminals. Having said that, they were actually really, to me, nice people. They were open people, honest people. They did really horrible things. But they were actually, to me, a lot more genuine about their emotions than the people around me, because they were just like trying to conform everybody into those groups. What that has done to me is it caused me to make up this image for myself. If you look at an outer core, that's me. I was an outer shell, and I was completely hiding my inner core. I disconnected from my feelings and my body. I disconnected from my emotions. So if there were emotions going on, I wouldn't recognize that in my head, because emotions, they only cause pain, right? Physical awareness is not good, because I was at a certain point not even sure anymore how to walk without drawing attention to myself. So I started wondering, if I walk away, am I shaking my butt too much? Am I lifting up my legs enough? I found myself not knowing how to casually walk anymore. So, long story short, what I ended up doing is building for myself a certain image. I started getting involved in, fortunately, positive things, like doing a lot of running, doing a lot of volunteering, doing a lot of things with art, doing a little bit of acting here and there. On one side, good things and also helping out people, but at the same time, I've realized that a lot of these things are coping mechanisms. One of my art expressions was tattoos. I have a lot of them, my whole body actually. And this is also a certain degree of pain addiction. It is bombarding yourselves with external signals to ensure that you are coming, you're staying in that mental kind of distraction part rather than to actually start dealing with, what am I feeling here in my body, in my emotions? So, in a summary, we're talking about mimicking people's behavior, focusing on the outer signals, but not really getting in touch with your emotion. And I started realizing that all these coping mechanisms, whether it is, driving really fast, I'm not going to say how fast I usually drive, but I drive pretty fast, or just taking a 18-hour run up to, base camp in Mount Everest, or any other things that you do. It's all coping mechanisms. It is about not getting in touch with your own feelings. So, how do you solve that? Well, first of all, I realized that I was getting in a lot of codependent relationships. Not very good. You end up meeting people who also have similar issues, who are not connecting with their own emotions, and you end up finding people who complete you. But these are not satisfactory relationships. You end up going through life fast and loud, like the Motorhead song, but that doesn't really work for you. And at a certain point, you find that life is actually getting pretty boring. Even the excitement is getting pretty boring. So what changed for me? I mean, I became a father about 8 years ago. My son is about 8.5, and I realized something, that if I just become this really tough outer shell without being in contact with my emotions, I will never be able to have a proper relationship, because I will not let anyone touch my core. I'm not touching my core, so why would somebody else be able to? But also, what kind of example do I set for my son? I recognized that my son was telling me, Father, I can never be like you. You can run up mountains, you can run through walls, you can do anything. You're so strong. If you have pain, you don't cry. And I realized that that is just the wrong example to set for your children. You need to teach him that you can actually deal with your emotions. And I realized that I had to deal with my emotions. If I wanted to find somebody who I can actually have a proper relationship with, whether it is my spouse, my son, my friends, all of that should not be about outer projection. I need to find out what is going on inside me, and I need to start dealing with those things. You need often professional help for that. So if you recognize some of these signals about not being able to really relate to your own emotions, overloading yourself with coping mechanisms, if you find that you are, for instance, suffering from fragmentation, you are all one emotion, you're all anger or you're all sadness, and you can't really get out of that for a while, that's typically signals that you probably need some professional help. Talking to friends may not help anymore. This is something you need to discuss with people, and I hope that everybody develops the courage to speak about this. This is broadcast live, so I'm perfectly fine with everybody knowing about this, that this is what I deal with. It doesn't define me, but it's something that I definitely want people to be aware of and to take as an example, to say, take whatever you're struggling with and just deal with that. Help yourself, and you'll find that a lot of things will start showing future that you think were probably not possible in the past.